And we're back. So, in case you were unaware, this is a pseudo part two to the video I filmed with Seymour about growing on LinkedIn. However, I did mention that I split this into two parts. And this video specifically, we aren't talking about LinkedIn growth too much. It's really just about his journey as an entrepreneur and the ups and downs he's faced along the way. So if you want a little bit more of a deeper insight into his journey and I guess what it's like being a founder, please tune in. I think it's a really good watch as well. I'd love to just put a little bit of focus and spotlight on that as well, because I guess what I do on my channel is oftentimes just speak to founders, typically who have raised or are doing something interesting. And what I want to do is put a bit of a spotlight on what that founder journey is like. Because, for example, what I realized when I was doing some research is you hear about all these success stories they raised, but you don't really get to see all the pain and the problems they've had during the entire race, and of course coming to that point as well. Maybe I'd love to even just spend some time hearing about why are you an entrepreneur, what got you into it, and I guess how has that journey been on, and how long has it been?
Entrepreneurial journey is very lonely journey, right? And at the same time, there are a lot of downs and a few ups, but those few ups are worth all the downs. And I always go with the words of Warren Buffett in this day. He says, if you have money, you are rich. If you have time, you're wealthy. And after some period of time, while you're doing entrepreneurship, you get a lot of time. And I recently realized that I'm wealthy because I have time. And my son asked me, Daddy, are we rich? Are we rich? And I say two things. I say, have you checked the price of the things you bought recently? He says, no. And I'm like, okay, you're rich. And do you have enough time to play with me and I have enough time to play with you? He says, yes. And I say, you're wealthy. So you are rich and wealthy. And I would say entrepreneurs can actually get very rich and wealthy, mostly wealthy, if they do the things right. And I would say entrepreneurship comes with a very big price tag for the freedom. The freedom comes from no one is telling you where you are and what time and get permission to do something or get permission to be creative, right? With all due respect to the corporate world, again, I've been in corporate world, and I think corporate world has a structure that entrepreneurship does not have, right? And every startup is eventually going to become an enterprise if they grow right. And I would say that freedom is the number one reason that I'm doing this, right? The freedom that gives me a chance to work anywhere I want, anytime I want, without having this glass ceiling on top of me that, hey, I belong or I depend on someone. And I'll say, okay. And at the same time, entrepreneurship gives me the creativity, opportunity to be creative about the projects that I want to try. Let's just say I get a new idea. I can actually try it with a small group of customers and inform them. And if it doesn't work, that was a good experiment. Thank you so much. Bye. But at the corporate world, you have to go through levels of brokers to do that. Yeah. That being said, entrepreneurship is a chaos, right? And is a chaos in terms of that there are 100 things you're doing in a single minute, but then there are nothing you're doing in days. You're waiting for the big contract to come in. But I would say both of it, right? Entrepreneurship or the corporate life has its own perks, ups and downs, right? Everything like being a single or being divorced or being married, everything has its own perks, right? And with one comes the companionship, let's just say structure, order, stability. With another one comes freedom, creativity. And depending on what type of personality you are, depending on what type of life you want to have for that period of time, you make your preference, you make your choices. And I think I always say every man should divorce at least once, because you gotta go. Every man should get married and should divorce at least once. You can actually go back to your same wife, but you gotta go through that divorce because it makes you such a strong human being. And that's why I always say every person should start a company at least once, because it will make you a strong personality, a strong individual. Even if you decide not to continue that, because that journey makes you a stronger individual. And there's reward in it. There's also chaos in it. And I noticed that I have become addicted to the itch. I call it
Yep.
entrepreneurial itch. It's just you lay down quietly, and then sometimes something is itching somewhere. You gotta find that an itch, right? And then, or you put nice hair cream on your hair, and then somewhere something itches. You don't want to mess, but you still, because it's itch. Entrepreneurship is like that. I call it entrepreneurial itch. Even if you go to corporate world, if you have that itch, you will want to scratch that. You will eventually do it. So you have to look, do you have that itch or not? If you don't have it, that's fine. Maybe eventually or later you will have it. But or you can just do it on the side. So that could be something as well. But I say entrepreneurship and the corporate life, or working for someone else, working for yourself, they both have their perks and ups and downs. So it's a matter of preference.
Definitely, and I agree, and I see that a lot in I understand what you mean by you really changed a lot as a person, as an entrepreneur, because how I see it as well for my own journey is it's almost like my business or anything I do is a reflection of me. If my business is bad, it means I'm bad and I gotta improve and I gotta learn. So I genuinely have that inspection of like it's I need to improve in order to make things better as well. I love to understand on your end, because yes, there are pros and cons on both. Since you started being a founder of or your entire entrepreneurial journey, have you ever at once had such a bad day where you were like, maybe it's time to go back to a corporate job, or have you ever gone back at all? Like, what's that been like?
Now, I want to touch base on that personal association thing, right? Like, look at Adam Newer, or the we guy, Adam,
Yeah,
right? The company went bankrupt. Adam actually became millionaire or billionaire. So associating yourself with your company could be, the customers will do it anyway. Customers will associate you with your company. So that if the company is doing bad, that doesn't mean you're a bad person or you need to improve. That means you just need to find those, flaws and fix them, and then, or it may take time, yes, but then that's how you do it. I would say there was a point that I wanted to make about, do you have those moments where you doubt? There are a lot of moments like that. There are moments where you want to go back to corporate world. I don't have those moments where I want to go to corporate world, but I have had questions that, why am I doing this? What's the point? Why would I do this insanity to myself? Why would I do this craziness to myself? I do have those moments. But at the same time, you know the answer deep inside. You know that the reason you're doing it is because, remember, you didn't want to, hear anything from anyone. You wanted to have your freedom. And I think entrepreneurs get spoiled down the road. Founders get spoiled. They start having this freedom of creativity. The moment they go to corporate world, they want to do the same.
yeah,
Unless But you cannot do that unless you are in a Microsoft Innovation Lab or you are in Google's startup. Most corporates will not allow you to ride your horses the way you want. They will say, you know what? It's 9 to 5. It's 30 minutes lunchtime. You can take one smoke break, and here's your manager. You need to ask her before you go. And you're like, oh my God, this really going back. So our founders get spoiled while doing entrepreneurship because they decide, right? They are main decision maker. And once you get used to that, it becomes extremely hard to go back to there's a subordination.
so
It
yes,
becomes very hard to go back to subordination.
of course, and some people do enjoy that as well. But I definitely see that it's probably the biggest thing that's keeping, I think, most of us away from, when I speak to a lot of founders as well. Lonely, yes. Hard, yes. Chaotic, yes. But it's free, right? For at least a little bit, right? In some ways, I know some people are working harder than they ever did at corporate as well. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But mentally you are free. Like you have the mental freedom. And again, everything has a cost, right? And I always say that cost of pain is like subscription service for the freedom.
Subscription service. I love that. I love that. Perfect. I think we're right up at the end of our time, Seymur. So, but thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your growth on LinkedIn, how it's helped you, and of course your journey as a founder as well. Really appreciate your time as always.
My pleasure. Thank you. And I look forward to working with you because, like I said, you are such a talented, you're such a passionate, it's contagious. Every time I talk to you, I can feel through the screens of WhatsApp or email or Google Meet that how you really are ambitious about creating value for the people that you work with. And I think that is priceless experience. Not everybody has that. I think that's your gift. That's your calling. So I look forward to working with you in the near future. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely, likewise, and thank you for helping me create this value as well. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks.
Let me